Hello, dear viewers. My name is Dr. Mohmad Pandit, Assistant Professor at the English Department, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. Today, I'm going to deliberate on a most famous but at the same time most neglected topic, that is listening sequence. We often talk about the communication process, but at the same time, we give very little importance to the listening process or the listening sequence. Here in this video lecture, you will come to know about what is listening, what are the different opinions of great scholars regarding this listening, and what is the listening process, and what are the different components of listening. Okay, to start with the great scholars, what scholars say about this listening. Here we will try to understand the different facets or the different components of listening, so that we can form a holistic definition of listening. And the first one, it's given by the Stephen or Covey. I quote, "The biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand. We listen to reply." Now, this is the most important fallacy in the listening process. We always listen to reply. For example, we form certain preconceived notions regarding the speaker's idea or the words. Therefore, we don't take cudgels to listen the speaker. In fact, before listening the speaker's words, we give the reply. We are always in hurry to give reply. That's why the biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand. We listen to reply. Our primary motive, what we do while listening, we always listen with one or the singular intention, that is to reply. We never take cudgels to understand the sound signals, understand the speaker's words. We are always in hurry to give reply. That's why the writer, he gives more importance to the understanding. We need to understand the sound signals. We need to understand the speaker's words. Then we can frame a suitable response. As we will talk about it later, listening process. In the listening process, what we do, first we receive these sound signals, and then we try to decipher them, decode them, understand them, so that we can give a suitable response or feedback. But the problem is that we never take it seriously. In fact, we never listen to understand. We listen with a singular purpose, that is to reply. And this is a great fallacy. Now, see the second one. It's propounded by the Deep Jackson. Listening is an art that requires attention, our talent, separate our ego, others our self. This is a very interesting one. In order to understand the lesson, we need to understand the different the dimensions, the facets of this listening. First of all, you need to understand that listening, it's an art. That means it's a very intricate one. It's not so simple as we think it is. In fact, it requires attention over talent. Here, the talent is important. For any listener, talent is important, but it's not so important as attention is. Therefore, we need to be very attentive while listening. This is the most important thing that we can be a good listener if we are attentive to speakers' words. And the second one is the separate our ego. It means that this listening, it's a sort of selfless progress without losing self, which means it's a selfless process in the sense here you are not so important as the speaker is, because you need to listen each and every single sound produced by the speaker so that you can give a good feedback. One should not be egoistic. One should not be self-centered in a sense that he will not take cudgels to listen speakers' words. Here it's a sort of selfless process. We need to be very patient. We need to be very patient so that we can take each and every word as propounded by the speaker. Don't jump the gun. Don't reply immediately without listening. First and the foremost thing is that consider that the speaker is important. His words or her words are important. If you want to give an apt and appropriate response, you need to first and the foremost thing is you need to listen first. That's why here the separate is separate. It's our ego. We need to be very active while listening. Here, one should not be egoistic. One should not be self-centered in a sense that he will reject uh, every word spoken by the speaker. Others ourselves. Others ourselves. Here the other is important. That means the sender is important. The speaker is important. We need to listen the sender carefully. Don't avoid your speaker. Follow his every word, and that is what we call it active listening. What's the active listening? When we actively, consciously, actively listen the each and every word as spoken by the speaker, so that at the end we can frame our response. We can give a very suitable response. Now the next one, it's given by the Alfred Brendel. The word listen contains the same letters as the word silent. The beautiful one. It's given by Alfred Brendel, and here, if you see the word listen, it contains same words as we find in word silent. That means while listening, one need to be silent. Uh, don't jump the gun. Don't reply too immediately without listening the each and every word of the speaker. You need to be silent so that you can take each and every word as a recipient. You need to be a silent recipient so that you can understand the message in a very holistic manner. That's why the word listen contains same letters as word silent. That means one need to be very silent. while listening. Don't time and again, don't interfere. Don't interfere. Don't, as I told you, jump the gun. Don't give your reply too immediately. Have a patience and be silent while listening. But when we say the silent, it doesn't mean that one should be quiet. As Krista Tippett says, listening is about being present, not just about being quiet. When I say the silent, don't take it silent for the word quiet. Yes, of course, we need to be keep mum. We need to be remain silent while listening. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you should become a passive entity. No, one need to be. Don't take it where the silent for word quiet. Okay, you need to be very active. Of course, you need to be very silent, but at the same time, you need to be present. When I say the present, you need to be very active. You need to be a very active listener. What are the different, for example, when I say the active listener, it means that we should take each and every sound signal and then try to decipher that sound signal, decode that sound signal, understand those same signal, at the same time retain the content and then give a feedback. Therefore, one need to be present. Silent doesn't mean that you need to be quiet. Silent means, yes, of course, you need to keep mum so that you can take each and every word of the speaker. But at the same time, you need to be present. When I say the present, you need to be very conscious. You need to be very alert. That means you need to become an active listener. That's why listening is about being present. Being present means being conscious, being alert, take each and every single sound signal, decode it, decipher it, interpret it, and then try to frame your response or feedback. Not just being quiet. Not just being quiet means that don't be a passive listener. That means it's a process. You need to be get involved actively. And the next one is most basic of all human needs is to understand and be understood. The best way to understand people is to listen to them. And of course, it's given by the Ralph Nichols, the most famous one and often quoted. The most basic of all human needs is to understand. Yes, of course, this is the basic need of human beings that to understand and be understood. That means we want to understand people, and at the same time, we want to be understood by the people. And in order to understand or be understood, one need to listen carefully. If you listen people carefully, you can understand. Surely you can understand them. Therefore, to understand people, that the first and the foremost thing is that you need to listen to people. Now, from these different definitions, we come to know about the different individual components. For example, in the first definition, we come to know that we often listen with a singular purpose, that is to reply. That means we don't listen to understand. We are always in hurry. We take it lightly. In fact, we frame some preconceived notion what the speaker is going to say. Therefore, without listening his or her words, we frame our conclusion, we give a feedback. which often then contradicts with the speaker's intention or the ideas. Therefore, we have the singular intention in our mind whilst listening, that is to give a reply. No, that's not all listening all about. Listening, it demands your attention. It demands your that you should be silent. You should be quiet. You should be, at the same time, you should be the active listener. That means, and the second one, as I told you, that we need to give up certain things. For example, as Dean Jackson says that this is it's it needs attention over talent. Yeah, the talent, of course, talent is important. So as to, for example, if one is talented, then he or she can decipher or decode the sound signal. Talent is important, but at the same time, the attention is more important than talent, because one need to be very attentive while listening. Uh, and the second one is the separate uh, our ego. That means the separate. It's you need to be very active while listening. In fact, in the listening, it's a selfless process. Selfless process. You need to be quiet. You need to give time or the opportunity to the speaker so that he or she can finish his or her statement. Therefore, have a patience. Leave yourself for a while aside so that you can listen each and every word of the speaker. And one more thing, the others ourself. Again, others ourself, it means that self is important. Of course, self is important, because at the end of the day, it's you who decodes or deciphers a sound signal. But we should, at the same time, we should give priority to our speakers. We should listen them carefully so that we can understand their intentions, ideas, or ultimately their message. And in a similar fashion, as Alfred Brendel says, that one need to be silent while listening, because the listen word and the silent word, they have the same letters. It means that this listen, he means to say that listening, it's similar to be a silent. But at the same time, when we say silent, don't take it silent for the word quiet. Okay, one need to be very active. One need to be present. Presentness of mind. That's very important. One need to be present while listening. When we say the present, it means one need to be very conscious. One need to be very active while listening. And here, it's the common nature of a human being to understand people or to be understood by people. Therefore, yes, of course, we can understand people, or people can understand us if we are a good listeners. Therefore, the listening is the first and the foremost element or the thing uh, to understand people. Therefore, listening is very important. As I told you, I want to repeat the last one. The most basic of all human needs is to understand and be understood. The best way to understand people is to listen to them. Therefore, for example, everyone wants that people should understand him or be understood. Yes, of course, we can understand people, or people can understand us only when we adopt this listening. Good. If we can be a good listener, surely people will understand it, or we can understand people. Now, the next, it's the definition of listening by International Listening Association, propounded framed in or established in 1979. Listening is the process of receiving, constructing meaning, from and responding to spoken or non-verbal message. Now again, listening is a process. When we say the process means that it's not something that happen all of a sudden, or that happen in a void. It's a process. It follows certain procedures. It follows certain methods. It follows certain steps. For example, the first step of listening is that's the receiving. We While listening, the first and the foremost thing is that we receive these sound signals, and these sound signals, they are transmitted to our brain. There we try to decode those signals. We try to decipher those sounds so that we can construct a meaning. That's why here constructing meaning from and responding at the end. What we do after understanding those sound signals, we give our feedback, that is response. That's why this listening, it's a process. It follows certain procedure. It is not something that happens in wide or all of sudden. It's a gradual process. For example, it follows certain steps like receiving. The first and the foremost thing is what we do while listening. We receive sound signals, and then we try to decode those sound signals. We try to decipher those sound signals so that we can understand, and after understanding, we frame or construct our opinion or our feedback. And at the end, what we do, we give that feedback, or we respond to the spoken words of the sender. Now, from all these points, we come to know that listening is a process of receiving again, then interpret and reacting to message received from communication sender. As I told you that it's a process where the first step is the receiving. We receive the sound signals, and after receiving, we try to reveal, or we try to decode, or we try to decipher those sound signals. We try to interpret those sound signals, and at the end, what we do, we give the feedback, that is, we react to the message or received from the communication sender. Therefore, the listening involves recognizing the sounds of speech and processing them into words and sentences. Though, therefore, this listening, it involves the recognizing of sounds. So we try to recognize the sound as sent by the sender. We try to recognize them. We try to identify them. We try to so that we can process, or so that we can frame our own response. It's an active, purposeful process of making sense of what we hear. As I told you that the listening process, it's an active process. It's a purposeful process of making what? Of making sense of what we hear. It's a very active process. One needs to be very active while listening. It's not something that happen without following any procedure. No, it's a very active process. It's a purposeful process, because here, after listening, we have to give our feedback. We have to respond. That's why it's very important. Now, the listening, this listening, it's the a first stage in the whole communication process. For example, that's why the listening comes first. And the first and the foremost communication skill that we learn in our lives is listening. Yes, listening, it is the first and the foremost communication skill that we learn in life. And listening, then it's followed by speaking, and speaking is followed by reading, and the reading is followed by writing. Therefore, here you can see the importance of the listening, how important it is, because it is the first and the foremost step in communication skill that we learn in our lives. Therefore, it's very important the listening. Now, what listening offers us? Here, I will try to give some points which are very important for the student. For example, the listening, it turn us into a better students. If you are a good listener, surely we will become a good student. Why? Because the listening, if you're an active listener, naturally you will imbibe, or naturally you will store or retain everything propounded by your teacher. Therefore, it's very important. That's why listening, it turns us into a better student. If you're a good listener, you will hear, you will listen each and everything said by your teacher. You will retain that information. Surely that information you will use it for the future, or you will this you will use this retained information for that matter in your examination. That's very important. That's why this listening is very important. Second one is it helps us to develop our interpersonal relation. Yes, this listening, it helps in the development of interpersonal relation. Your interpersonal relation can be fine, can be good if you're a good listener, because that the listening process, it negates or it avoids many miscommunications, uh, misinterpretations. That's why one need to be a good listener. One who is a good listener, surely he or she will develop good interpersonal relations. Therefore, for this interpersonal relation, one need to be for the very congenial, for the very mutual complementary interpersonal relation. One need to be a very good listener. Effective listening. The third point is effective listening can make you better public speaker. As Mark Brown puts it, I quote, to be a good speaker, be a good listener first. Yes, this effective listening, that means active listening, it can turn you, or it can make you a better public speaker. For example, as Mark Brown, a great public speaker, who says that to be a good speaker, be a good listener first. Yes, you can become a good or the better public speaker. But the condition is that first of all, you need to be a good listener. Because when we are active listeners, what we do, we try to imbibe each and every word as spoken by the speaker. We not only imbibe, we not only understand each and every word as propounded by the speaker. In fact, we try to retain it. We try to remember it for any future use. Therefore, if you want to be a good speaker, you need to be, at first, you need to be a good listener. As Mark Brown says, to be a good speaker, be a good listener first. And the next one is it builds trust and encourages problem solving action. Now, this is the important point that this listening, it builds trust and encourages problem solving acumen. Yes, surely, if you are a good listener, people will trust you. People will find faith in you. They will reveal each and everything to you. But if you are a good listener, and it this good listening, it can encourage problem solving acumen. Yes, we can solve a problem. We can solve a problem if we are a good listener, if we will listen from everyone, so as to see a very good solution for any problem. And the next one is this: good listening enables people to tell their story. Yes, of course, the good listening, it helps people to tell their story because they find the confidence in you, they confide everything to you, they confide in you. In this way, they narrate their stories. Therefore, one need to be a good listener if one has to become a good student, or for the interpersonal relation. If you need to very congenial or good kind of interpersonal relation, you need to be a very good listener. And one more thing, that the public speaker, if you want to become a good public speaker, the first and the foremost thing is that you need to be a good listener. And this listening, active listening, it can build trust, it can encourage problem solving acumen, and at the end, the listening, it enables people to tell their story. It means that people confide in you, they trust you, and therefore they begin to narrate their story. uh, Now the next one. Yes, this is the common fallacy, that is, we often take listening for hearing. This listening and hearing, these are two different terms. Here, the hearing. First of all, we will see what hearing is. Hearing and listening, first of all, hearing is the physiological problem in which, process in which sound signals are detected by ears and then converted into impulses and sent to the brain. This hearing, it's different from listening. Hearing, it's a physical process, as it's written here. Hearing is a physiological process. That is, it's a physical process. This hearing is a mere physical process in which sound signals or the spoken words, they are detected by our ears and then converted into impulses and sent to the brain. Therefore, in order to understand this hearing, the first and the foremost thing is that you should understand that this hearing, it's a mere physical process, and here in this process our ears, they receive sound signals and then transfer these sound signals to the brain, or in other words, and thereafter our listening starts. In other words, you can say that hearing is the first step to listening. As I told you that hearing is a mere physical process, uh, in which our ears, they receive sound signals and then transfer these sound signals to our brain. And after that starts our listening process. In this way, you can say that this hearing is the first step of listening. And this hearing, it's an involuntary act where we simply receive sounds. That's It's involuntary act. That means it's not a conscious act. For example, I am sitting here and here I hear the sound of fan. I'm hearing this sound unconsciously, or without taking it seriously, or without trying to decipher its meaning. It's involuntary act. It's an involuntary act. Here, what we do, we simply receive these sound signals. Like right now, as I'm here. Here we have a sound of fan, and I'm simply receiving the sound involuntarily, without taking any cudgel to understand its meaning, to try to decipher its meaning. Okay, therefore it's an involuntary act where we simply receive sounds. Now, listening, how it's different from hearing. Listening is the act of hearing a sound and understanding what you hear. In hearing, what we do, we simply receive the sound signals and then transfer these sound signals to the brain. But listening, it's the act of hearing a sound and then understanding what you hear. Listening doesn't stop here. After hearing the sound signal, uh, in listening, what we do, we try to decipher those sound signals. We try to decode those sound signals. We try to know the meaning of those sound signals. We try to understand those sound signals. Why? So that we can give a feedback. That's why, as I told you, that this listening and hearing, these are two different things. And this listening, it requires concentration so that your brain processes meaning from words and sentences. This listening, it's a very conscious process. Here we consciously hear each and every sound so that we will come to know about these sounds, about the meaning of those sounds, about the implications of those sounds, about the context of those sounds, with the ultimate aim that we have to give a good response. That's why it's a process. It's a process where which requires concentration, so that we need which requires attention. That's why we call it. It's a voluntary act. It's conscious act. Here we consciously hear or listen each and every word. Try to understand the meaning of that word. Try to understand the context of that word or that sound signal. Why? So that at the end, so that we can give a good feedback at the end. And with this listening, it leads to learning. That's why it's not a mere physical process. It's a conscious process. It leads to learning. There are the different stages of listening. The first stage is receiving, and the second stage is understanding, and the third one is remembering, and the fourth one is evaluating, and the last one is feedback. In order to understand listening, we need to understand the different steps of listening. And our first step is receiving. As the word suggests, that receiving means to receive sound signals. This is the most basic stage of listening process. Or you can say this is the first and the foremost stage of listening process. Here we simply receive the sound signals. And in the receiving stage, paying attention to speaker is very important. Yeah, it means that we must be very attentive while listening. Listener must not interrupt the speaker. As I told you that while listening, one need to be silent. One should not interfere the speaker. Listener, he must not interrupt the speaker. He should listen, and then he can give his or her opinions. But the first, while listening, one need to be silent, but at the same time active. As I told you, that silent doesn't mean that quiet. Silent means take every word of the speaker, listen it carefully, don't interrupt the speaker. Okay, and you have the time, or you will be given an opportunity to give feedback. And the next one, the listener must not rehearse his or her reply before the speaker completes his or her speech. This is the most important thing. While listening, what we do, we often try to compile our own responses while listening. While listening, do only one thing, that is listening. While listening, don't try to compile or frame your replies. That's why the listener must not rehearse his her reply before the speaker completes his her speech. Allow speaker to finish his or her statement, and thereafter you can reply. While listening, don't try to compile, don't try to frame responses. Do only one thing, that is, while listening, only listen. And then we have the second part, that is understanding. The understanding stage is the stage during which a listener determines the context and the meaning of words that are heard through the process called decoding. As the word suggests, is understanding stage. In understanding stage, we as a listeners try to understand the sound signal. How we try to understand those sound signals? We decode, we decipher, we try to reveal the meaning of those sound signals. Here, the important thing is that this understanding stage, we try to determine the context and the meaning of the words. Here we see the both the context and the meaning of the words that are heard through the process called decoding. In understanding stage, what we try to do, we decode those sound signals. We decipher those sound signals. We decipher those sound signals in order to understand context and the meaning of the words. And the next one is this is the stage where the listener should plan his her response. Here in this stage, we can plan our response, and for better understanding of speaker's meaning message, the listener can ask questions to fill any holes he she may have in the mental reconstruction of the speaker's message. Here in this stage, what we try to do, we try to understand the context and the meaning of those sound signals by the process called decoding. We try to decode the sound signals, we try to understand them. And it is this stage where the listener rehearses his or her response. And moreover, here in this stage, we can ask questions so as to fill any holes that may have in the mental reconstruction of speaker's message. Here, to avoid any question, here we can ask any question so as to make everything clear, so as to understand each and everything. And the next one is the remembering stage. In the listening process, a remembering stage occurs as the listener categorizes and retains information he or she has gathered from speaker for future access. Here the word remember. Here this listener, he tries to retain the information, he tries to retain the information for a singular purpose, that is for the future access. Again, this is the stage of this listening process, this remembering. In the remembering, listener, he tries to remember things, he tries to retain the information, uh, he or she has gathered from the speaker for future access. If the listener is attentive and understand the message, the result will be in stored memory, as allowing the listener to record information about people, objects, events for later recall. Now, as the word suggested that remembering, it means here the listener he tries to retain the information for future access or for later recall. And this remembering happens both during and after the speaker's delivery. That means this remembering, the process of remembering or the retention, it occurs during and after the speaker's delivery. This is the most important point, this remembering, because this remembering it often comes to uh, it often helps us to retain things for our future use. That's why it's very important. Here we try to retain the information. Here we try to retain or memorize the information. Or here simply we try to store information for the future access or future recall. Then we have the next one, that is evaluating. The evaluating stage, it occurs most effectively once the listener fully understands what the speaker is trying to say. Here, what we do, we try to evaluate the retained information. We try to evaluate it. We try to assess it. That's why the evaluating stage occurs most effectively once the listener fully understands what the speaker is trying to say. Here, after the retention of information, what we do, we just evaluate that information. Here, the listener assesses the information she has received both qualitatively and quantitatively. That means here we see the information, we evaluate the information, retain the information, we try to analyze that retained information, and through the combination of understanding, retention, and evaluation, listener gets ready to form a response. Now, when we combine all these things, that is the understanding, retention, and evaluation, listener gets ready to form a response. Now, in evaluation or evaluating stage, what we do, we try to evaluate, we try to analyze, or we analyze, or we evaluate, analyze or evaluate the retained information, both qualitatively and quantitatively. And when we combine all these stages, for example, the receiving, then understanding, retention, and evaluation, the listener gets ready to form a response, which is the last stage, that's the responding. Responding or the feedback. The responding stage is the stage of listening process in which the listener provides verbal or the non-verbal reaction based on short or a long-term memory. The responding stage, after receiving those sound signals, then after understanding or deciphering those sound signals and retaining of the information, we give a feedback. Or the listener, it's he or she is in a position to give a suitable feedback. Responding usually occurs at the end of communication. Yes, this is the last stage, and completing the speaker sentence is not good way to respond. It impedes the communication process. Uh, Sometimes what we do, we often, for example, while giving a response, uh, we repeat the speaker's words. For example, we try to repeat the sound, the exact words or the exact sentence of the speaker. That's not a good way of responding. We should allow the speaker to finish his or her statement, and then after we can give a response. And this is the last stage. And this, when we follow the previous stage, when we follow the preceding stages, uh, exactly in a right manner, we can give a right feedback. Therefore, now here we have some, in order to, yes, now we have some listening cycle tips. It's the solar approach given by the Gerard again, professor, Loyola University Chicago, cycle helper module 1998. He has given certain terms, the certain terms like solar, in order to understand these listening cycle. What is the first listening cycle? Or the first is the scarcely faced person. While listening, uh, one should directly face the speaker. That means one should make a direct eye contact with the speaker. That's why the scarcely facing, it gives the impression that I am here with you, I am available to you. If for any reason facing the person scale is too threatening for the speaker, then an angled position may be more useful, helpful. Now, this sitting scale means that we should confront our speaker. We should look into his eyes. Uh, it gives the impression, or it gives the confidence to the speaker, yes, that the listener or the recipient is attentive. And when the speaker becomes confident, he or she can deliver or omit each and every word, or whatever he or she has to say, she will say it in a very nice manner. Therefore, one should face directly the speaker. Don't look sideways. Don't tilt to your right or left. Face this speaker scarcely. It gives a good impression. It gives the impression that you are active. And the second one is A. A stands for adopt an open posture. Uh, while listening, one need to maintain your right posture. For example, um, crossed arms or crossed legs can be a sign of less involvement with the others. While listening, one need to make upright posture. That means we should not recline too backwards. It gives the impression of haughtiness. It gives the impression of pride. Uh, Surely it will hinder this listening process. Or for that matter, while listening, one should not lean too forward. It gives the impression of, for example, fear. Uh, Therefore, one need to maintain upright posture while listening. That's why A stands for adopt an open posture. Uh, don't sit cross arms or cross legged. It gives a bad impression. And the next one is it's possible to lean in towards the speaker, but not too much. If you a little bit, if you lean towards the speaker, it says that I'm interested in you and all that what you have to say. But don't lean too forward. It gives the impression of fairness. Uh, As I told you, leaning back can suggest to the pull. That means it gives this impression that you are haughty or you are full of pride. Uh, as I told you, remember not to lean too. Sorry, remember not to lean too forward, or this may be seen as placing a demand on the speaker. He or she may find it intimidating. Therefore, maintain a upright posture, sit straight while listening. Don't lean too forward or too backward, okay, because it will give different impressions. For example, if you lean too backward, it will give the impression of haughtiness, or that you are full of pride. Or for that matter, if you lean too forward, it will give the impression that you are full of fear. Now the next one is lean. L stands for the lean. And yes, yes, we have done this lane. Now the next one is the maintain good eye contact. E stands for eye contact. uh, while listening, maintain a good eye contact with your speaker, because it gives a good impression, or in other way of saying it, say that I'm interested, I'm with you. Remember, this is not the same as staring. There are different things. For example, in English, we have a term like oogle, or we have the staring. Oogle means to look at something or somebody constantly or continuously, but with a bad intention. Sometimes you made a hard stare that uh, offends our speaker, that offends our who's whosoever is in front of you. Therefore, maintain a modest gaze, maintain eye contact, a modest eye contact. You will need to look away very so often in order not to stare, but monitor the amount you look away. It could say something about your own level of comfort and discomfort. Yes, of course, while listening, we need to maintain eye contact with our speaker, because it gives the impression that we are active, we are actually listening, we are actively taking each and every word of the speaker. Okay, we are attentive, we are alert, we are here, we are present. If you maintain a good eye contact, but don't make it too hard, because it will turn into oogle or staring, which will make uncomfortable the speaker. Therefore, one need to maintain a modest eye contact while listening. And the next one is relax, be relaxed. If you are, for example, fidgeting nervously, it will distract the speaker. For example, sometime while listening, what we do, we often fumble with things. For example, with pen or with the button of a shirt. Don't do this. In fact, don't. If you want to be a good listener, don't fumble with things, or don't. Sometimes we squeeze our hands. Sometimes we fumble with our button of a shirt. Uh, Therefore, if you want to be a good listener, don't fumble. Uh, as it's certain here, if you are fidgeting nervously, it will distract the speaker. When you fumble with things while listening, when you fumble with things like when you fumble with the button of your shirt, okay, it surely it will distract your speaker. Therefore, avoid these things. Be relaxed also tells the speaker that you are comfortable with using your body as a vehicle of personal contact and expression. One needs to be relaxed. One need to, because it will provide confidence to the speaker, so that he or she can omit or pour out every word or each and every word. Therefore, be relaxed while listening. Don't be tense. Don't be taut. It helps people. Yes, the next one is it helps put the speaker at ease. This, if you listen, listen, carefully, be relaxed, because it will help speaker. He will find at ease. These are the different references. Okay. It was all about the listening and the different stage of the listening, and we will meet in the next video with another topic. Till then, goodbye.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.